This video clip is to give you some little tips and advice about how to get the most out of this ACT-based mindfulness training program. Bearing in mind that this program has the intention of changing our relationship or the way we respond to uncomfortable thoughts and feelings. That is the primary aim of the program, is to give us new ways of responding to uncomfortable thoughts and feelings so that these thoughts and feelings have less influence on our behaviours, and we can start to take actions that will lead us to create a better life for ourselves and for the people we care about. So the exercises that you'll be seeing on the various videos on this webpage are designed to basically give us a new way of relating to thoughts and feelings using mindfulness skills, acceptance skills and diffusion skills. And to get really good at these skills, it does take a little bit of time and effort. I think there are 5 key things to remember whilst you're doing this program, and I'll call them the 5 P's. The first P stands for practice on a regular basis. The second P stands for pacing yourself. The third P stands for patience. The fourth P stands for perseverance. And the final P stands for planning value-based activities. The first P stands for practice. Now, if you want to become good at any skill, whether it's driving a car or learning to ice skate or learning to swim or to surf, it's no good really just reading about it or talking about it. You actually have to go and do it and practice it on a regular basis to become skilled at it. Now, these ACT-based skills of mindfulness, acceptance and diffusion, they are actually skills that have to be learned in a very similar way to learning, say, how to surf or learning how to swim. And the more you practice, the better and better you get. So initially, whenever you're learning a new skill, it can be quite frustrating and it can be quite difficult. You may feel like you're never going to get it, or it's too hard, and all these kind of thoughts will pop up. But like with most skills, if you keep practicing and keep persevering, then things become a little bit easier and easier. So in terms of practice, what I would strongly recommend is you set up a schedule of 10 minutes of 10 to 15 minutes of mindfulness in the morning, 10 to 15 minutes of acceptance exercises in the afternoon, 10 to 15 minutes of maybe diffusion exercises in the evening. And if you can maintain this schedule on a regular basis, maybe say at least 5 times a week, but if you can, try and do them every day, but aim for a minimum of 5 times a week, and try to keep them going for at least 2 months, because it's to change these habits that we've got of relating to our thoughts, where we constantly argue with our thoughts, constantly fight with our thoughts, or we try and avoid our thoughts, and finding this new kind of relationship where we're just noticing thoughts. It takes time to cultivate. It doesn't happen overnight. And the same thing with our feelings. We've got so used to struggling and pushing away our feelings and trying to avoid our feelings. To try to just open up and allow the feelings to come and go, it does take a bit of training and a bit of time. The acceptance training skills will take time before they become a bit more fluid and natural. And cultivating this quality of mindfulness, where we're just noticing how we're feeling, noticing our thoughts, noticing our sensations, noticing what's going on all around us. Again, this ability to just notice in a very attentive way to what's happening, again, takes a bit of cultivation and time. So setting aside these periods, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes in the evening, is a good start. But remember, the practice needs to be not only like what we call formal practice, where you sit down and you practice these things, but there's also a need for informal practice, where you're in the world doing, say, your job, or you're at home, or you're doing an activity or something, and various worrying thoughts pop up or anxious feelings pop up. Then again, this is what we call more informal practice, where you start to say, okay, I'm noticing I'm struggling with these feelings in this situation. Can I now just experiment with just dropping the struggle and allowing the feeling to be there? Or I'm noticing I'm getting caught up in this story about that person thinks I'm like this, or I'm thinking this could happen or that could happen, and then see if I can change that attitude to, I'm just noticing I'm having a thought that this problem could arise or that problem could arise, and go into more of this kind of noticing space. So we need to look for opportunities to do formal practice, and also opportunities during the week to do informal practice. And if we do this on a regular basis over time, then we start to notice the benefits of this program. So practice on a regular basis and try and make it a commitment. That is why we actually use the word acceptance and commitment training, or acceptance and commitment therapy. It's because the commitment aspect of it is a key part of the program. The only way we can really see the benefits of this program is to practice it on a regular basis and commit to practicing on a regular basis. Even though we'll go through periods of having doubts and anxieties and worries and etc., we need to just keep going through those periods till we've finished the program. Now, to help you practice, what I found was very useful for me was to put little notices up on my bedroom wall or in my kitchen cabinet, just to remind me of certain things to do. So it would be things like stop struggling, what you resist persists, be mindful, notice thoughts. So just little kind of stick-it notes stuck on the wall can just help to remind you when you get up in the morning what you're going to be practicing. And you can also put appointments in your mobile phone or on your computer with an email system, a calendar or something. Just little pop-up reminders to come up to say to do a little bit of mindfulness practice in the morning, and just maybe an acceptance exercise in the afternoon, and a diffusion exercise in the evening. So use the technology you have to help you on this particular program to get the most out of it. And you may even want to enlist some friends to remind you. I know I heard from one workshop where the participants of the workshop would get together and they would text each other on a daily basis with the word BM, be mindful, just to remind each other to be mindful throughout the day. So experiment with ways to help to remind you to put these things into practice on a daily basis. Now the second P stands for pacing yourself. Now if you've been suffering from panic attacks and high anxiety for a long period of time, you're probably feeling very exhausted, very tired out, because it has a huge drain on your nervous system and your adrenal system. And maybe even just getting up in the morning feels very tiring, doing activities, just general household activities, can feel very draining and tiring. So if you are feeling quite exhausted, and it's very easy to feel overwhelmed by having a program where you have to commit yourself to following a certain sequence of activities during the day, and also do formal and informal practices. And I totally understand that, and it's not something we're expecting you to do straight away. So if you feel that because of your history that you really are quite exhausted and everything else, then you do need to be sensitive to that and tune into that and pace yourself. And say to yourself, what is a reasonable goal for me to set myself? The guidelines are, say, 10 to 15 minutes morning, afternoon and evening to do these exercises. But if that's too exhausting right now to even contemplate, can I just do 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, or 5 minutes in the evening, or maybe even less if you're feeling that the panic attack is so strong when you experience it, to just be with it is too traumatic right at this moment in time. So maybe you just need very, very small periods of sitting with very strong emotions. And that's okay. If you pace yourself and you gradually stay with your feelings over a period of time, and you maybe extend the period gradually over time, then it does become easier to be with very, very strong feelings, and they don't overpower you so much. But even if you just do a little bit each day, that helps in the long run. Also, just bear in mind that when we are experiencing strong periods of panic and anxiety, something sort of happens to us internally whereby small things on the outside seem to be like huge problems on the inside. It's almost like we're wearing kind of magnifying glasses when we're going through a period of high anxiety and panic attacks, and we're looking through the world through these magnifying glasses, and everything seems like a huge problem, a huge burden. So if your partner asks you to do something, or you get a task given to you at work, it all can seem as though it's a huge burden and you can't cope. And part of it is to do with the fact that we're quite tired out and exhausted, but also part of it is to do with the fact that when we're in a highly emotional state, it does seem to cause us to, our perspective of life to change, and we sort of see things through this kind of magnifying glass, and everything seems to be amplified. So bear that in mind. Sometimes it's not the fact that you can't, that the task given is, it's not the task itself that's the problem, it's the fact that we are looking at it through these kind of magnifying glasses. And what I found when I was experiencing my panic attacks was that if I felt something was overwhelming, if I just would stay with the feeling for a while, that overwhelming feeling would just pass, and then I would say, I would be in a different kind of space, and that the same task didn't seem so overwhelming as before. So sometimes it's just worth experimenting. If something feels a bit overwhelming, just sort of stay with the feeling for a while and let things calm down a bit, and then come back to the same task and see whether it really is at this moment in time a realistic thing to do. The other thing I would advise you to do is, because your nervous system is quite exhausted, to plan rest breaks during the day. So times where you're just sitting down, or maybe even lying down, and just listening to some nice music, or doing some general relaxation exercises, just to give your body a chance to recharge itself. And also consider, really look at your diet and what you're eating, what you're drinking, and see whether you can start to eat more nutritious foods, cut down on caffeine-based drinks, maybe if they got like Coca-Cola, or too much coffee, too much tea. All these things can like overactivate the nervous system and make a stress system feel even more stressed. And things, what I found particularly helpful was looking after my nutrition and making sure I had like a really balanced diet, and maybe even considering taking some supplements to boost your system a little bit, because the nervous system can get very exhausted if you've been through a long period of panic attacks and anxiety. And taking care of your health is a way of just restoring that balance, so that you feel like you've got the energy to do things again. So sleep and diet are very important as well. And what can also happen is that when you are looking at the other videotapes in this program, you may start to get this feeling of feeling overwhelmed, or it's too much to do, it's too difficult, etc. And again, this is part of just a general sort of symptom, if you like, of feeling quite stressed and anxious. Things do seem overwhelming. So I would advise you to, you don't have to watch all these videos all in one day or in 1 week. You can just pace them out. Just say, I can only do this much today, listen to one video, practice the exercise for that video, and just try that for a week, and then next week maybe add the second one, and so that way you sort of gradually introduce the exercises into your weekly program. You don't have to do everything in one go. Just be sensitive to your own needs at this present moment in time. Now the third P stands for patience. As I said before, when you're learning a new skill, say it was learning to surf, it would be a little bit unrealistic to be able to expect to get onto the surfing board after you've had a few words of instruction, to get onto the surfing board, get onto the waves and be able to surf them perfectly. You're very likely to fall off quite a few times before you'll be able to get on the board and be able to surf a bit gracefully. And the same sort of thing applies to learning these ACT skills. When we're learning to surf panic attacks and not struggle with them and not fight with them, and to diffuse from all the worrying and catastrophizing thoughts you have when you're having a panic attack, it does take a bit of skill and a bit of time to learn how to do it properly. So being a bit patient is very, very useful. And when you notice impatience arising, which it will do, because obviously you want to see the benefits of this program and you'll be like looking for results, just be aware of the fact that because we've got these very strong habits that we've had maybe for 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 years, depending on how old you are, of struggling with our thoughts, of fighting with our feelings, they're not going to change overnight. And for me personally, I mean, I think it was about 3 or 4 months of regular practice that I started noticing some real differences to my overall state of well-being. So patience is a very useful quality to try to cultivate. Now, the fourth P stands for perseverance. When you are following a program like this, you are going to feel waves of uncertainty, waves of doubt, waves of frustration, because to be honest, you don't actually, until you've actually done this program for a while, you don't actually know whether it's going to be of any benefit to you. So, and there is just almost like an automatic process of the mind that when it's following a new program and it can't see instant results, it will go through periods of feeling, or having thoughts like, what if this doesn't work for me, or it's not working, I can't do it, etc. And again, this is why in ACT we talk about committed action. If you can have this attitude of mind that I am going to commit to this program for a minimum of 2 months, and I'm going to stick with it no matter what reason my mind comes up for not doing it. If you can adopt that attitude and you can stick with it, then you will get through these periods of doubt and uncertainty. And then hopefully after the end of 2 months you can look back and you can see whether the program has helped you in your life and made some difference in the way you're relating to your thoughts and feelings, and you're noticing you can handle them a lot better. But if you don't persevere through the inner psychological and mental storms, then basically it'd be difficult to get the benefit of any program, to be honest, because most programs I'm aware of, they do require a length of time before you see the benefits of them. There isn't a program that I'm aware of that has any kind of clinical basis or clinical evidence that works instantly. And if you have heard about these kind of programs, I would strongly advise you to have a look at the actual evidence behind it. So try to bear in mind that you will experience psychological and mental kind of doubts and worries and anxieties when you're following this program, you will feel like giving up and quitting at various times. Sometimes it's not only internal storms, you may get external storms. There's something may happen in your external world with your friends or your family or work or something, which adds kind of a stress load to you, and because you're feeling so exhausted, it all feels like you just can't carry on, and you feel like quitting. But I would just urge you just to see if you can just maybe take a bit of a break, sort of take a bit of time out if you possibly need it, do some kind of meditation exercise, some calming exercise, and just see if you can just persevere through that period and carry on following your commitments. Okay, now the fifth important principle is planning value-based activities during the day. Now, in ACT, we talk a lot about value-based actions. And our values, if you like, are the directions that we want to go in our life. So the direction could be the direction of learning, the direction of helping, the direction of creating, the direction of discovering. There's various kind of like values that we all have, and for us personally they make our life very meaningful. And if we can think of some valued activities that we can do during the day and plan for them, say each morning when we get up, we sort of, before actually going about our normal daily activities, we sit down and maybe do a bit of mindfulness before we start, and then when we finish the mindfulness exercise, we just think of just 3 things maybe that we could do during the day that we would feel would enrich the quality of our life in some way. There are sort of 3 reasons, I would say, why it's worth planning value-based activities during the day. Now, they don't have to be very sort of major activities. It could be small things like maybe just phoning a friend up and having a chat on the phone, or arranging to see them for a meal or go out for a walk. It could just be deciding on cooking yourself a really nutritious meal, or it could just be taking your dog for a really nice long walk. Just simple things like that could be planned in throughout the day, which when you go to sleep, before you go to sleep at night, you can think, okay, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that, and they sort of add a kind of sense of like you've done something useful during the day. Now, what the research shows is that when we start to change our focus of attention from trying to fix our emotions and our thoughts and start to put our attention into doing things that we value, it actually long term is more therapeutic than trying to spend all our time indoors struggling with our thoughts and our feelings. And there's quite a lot of clinical research which, like for example in CBT and some befriending programs, where they're finding that just doing activities which are fulfilling for you, maybe fun even for you, long term they have a very therapeutic effect. But the other sort of important thing about planning value-based activities is that what we're trying to do with this kind of ACT-based mindfulness training program is to create opportunities where you can practice these exercises of mindfulness, acceptance and diffusion in real life situations. So there's no point in just doing these exercises in a nice quiet environment when you're at home and there's nothing really stressing you. And you may feel quite relaxed after doing them, but what we really are hoping for is that you can use these skills in real life situations where you're experiencing a bit of stress and seeing how you can cope with stressful situations a little bit better. So unless you actually initiate and have the willingness to create events during the day where you're still doing something that you really want to do, but it's also, there's a possibility that by doing these activities they will create a little bit of stressful feelings and thoughts, which give you an opportunity to, in a way, practice your surfing skills, to be able to surf the waves of emotion, of anxiety, of worrying thoughts, etc. In a real life situation, and to really test whether your skills are really developing and you really are being able to relate to unhelpful thoughts and feelings in a new way. And the third sort of important thing about planning value-based activities is that ACT is really all about creating a richer and more fulfilling life for all of us, really. And even if there was no stress in your life and you weren't experiencing these anxiety or panicky feelings, we would still recommend you to plan value-based activities, because they would enrich the quality of your life. It will make your life in the long term very fulfilling. So I'd encourage you just to maybe after listening to this video, to just take a pen and pencil out and just think about what sort of activities you've done in the past that have given you a sense of like richness, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of like satisfaction that you've done something that you're really like pleased about. And what was the qualities that were present in those activities? Was it the fact that you learned something, that you discovered something, that you helped somebody, that you created something? What was it that within that activity that you found very rewarding? And see whether you can find activities during the day, even small activities, that in some way would allow you to connect with these values that you have identified when you reflect on various activities in the past. And like I said, if you can just, even if you feel that you can't do very much because you're exhausted and tired, even small things, like say for example, you like connecting with other people, just maybe send someone an email or phone somebody up. Just small things like that. You don't have to, if you're feeling too exhausted to go out and arrange a meeting and a dinner or something, that may be too much at the moment. Just have small steps towards your valued direction. So aim for 3 valued activities that you can do during the day. Maybe one related to your work or career, maybe one related to your health and well-being, maybe one related to your play and leisure time. Just maybe think of just all the activities you can do in those domains, or some other domain that's very important to you, that you personally would find very rich and rewarding. And even though you may be feeling tired and feeling like you can't do it, etc., just see if you can do small amounts each day and gradually build up. We don't want to go into this kind of sort of boom and bust kind of syndrome. So if you overdo things straight away, you may get so exhausted that you just feel like giving up. So just pace yourself again and just do small activities and gradually build them up over time at a pace that suits you. So, in summary, there are 5 things I would strongly recommend you to think about putting into place as you follow this program. First thing is to practice these exercises on a regular basis. Aim for a minimum maybe of 5 days a week, but try every day if you can. To do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes in the evening of mindfulness, acceptance and diffusion exercises. The second thing is to pace yourself. If you're finding listening to these videos and doing these exercises too much, then just cut it down. Just notice how your body's feeling and how your mind is, and maybe just cut things down if you're feeling overwhelmed by things. Third thing is patience. You will feel like you want things to happen very quickly, and that's natural and understandable. But this is a bit like watering seeds in a garden. If you water them on a regular basis and you look after them, they will grow into a beautiful tree with maybe some nourishing fruit on it. But it does take time and a lot of effort to see the benefits of this program. So be patient. The fourth thing is perseverance. You will experience internal storms where you have lots of doubts, feelings like you can't do it, you can't cope, and I really urge you just to keep going. What really helped me in the past was when I had these kind of thoughts, I would just say to myself, I'm just going to carry on till Sunday, or carry on for a few more days, and that would just help me to get through that period of feeling like, well, when I want to quit. And once you've got through that period, you find like you just can keep going for another week and another week and another week, etc. So persevere through the storms. We all have them, and we can all get through them with a certain mental attitude. And the last one is to plan 3 value-based activities during the day. They don't have to be sort of really huge activities, they can be very small things, but think of 3 valued areas in your life, and think of 3 small things you can do in each of those areas, and just try to aim to do them during the day, and maybe write in a journal before you go to sleep all the things you've done, and hopefully you might see that as you start to do these value-based activities, your attention and your focus is moving away from trying to fix and sort out the anxiety and the worry thoughts, and you're just more engaged with life. And overall, you may find that over the weeks and the months, the richness and the quality of life grows and grows. One other thing I'd like to say is that there are many different types of mindfulness exercises. There are many different types of diffusion exercises, and there's a few types of acceptance exercises. So the ones that are on my YouTube website and my own website, these are some of the very basic ones, and if you've tried them for a little while and they don't seem to be working for you, then it's worth having a look and learning about other types of mindfulness exercises or diffusion exercises or acceptance exercises. And in the next few months I will be posting different types of exercises which you can experiment with. And if you subscribe to my email list, I will keep you notified when these new videos are posted. And hopefully that you will find an exercise that actually works for you. And another thing that is very helpful is to either get the support of a good friend, someone who encourages you in a nice way to keep going when the going gets tough, or if you haven't got that kind of support, then to maybe buy a few of the ACT books which are listed on my website, or find an ACT based coach or therapist who has an understanding of how to apply these mindfulness skills in the context of panic attacks and anxiety. Because sometimes, like I said before, you will experience quite a few emotional storms and doubts about whether this is going to work for you, and if you're working with somebody who has experience of these things, they can sort of encourage you to keep going and help you to get through some of those really strong waves. Okay, this is the end of this video, and I hope you found it useful, and if you have any questions, please get in touch. Thank you. I'd just like to finish off with a poem. I'm not sure who the author is, but it's generally called Don't Quit. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is queer with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns. And many a failure turns about, when he might have won had he stuck it out. Don't give up though the pace seems slow, you might succeed with another go.